If you're anything like me, there's a pretty good chance there's quite a long list of retired Lego sets that you missed out on at the time that you wish you could just go out and buy at their original retail price. Which kind of begs the question, wouldn't it be cool if every now and again Lego just brought them back, re-released them, made them available in the shops again? But in actual fact, that's something they effectively never do, with a couple of notable examples from over the years. So why is that? In this video, I'm going to be trying to do a little bit of a deep dive on both sides of the conversation, present you some of the reasons why it would be super cool, and I think we agree it would be super cool as Lego collectors to be able to get access to some of these older sets, and maybe explain why it's something that Lego don't really do and probably aren't going to start doing anytime soon. We're going to look at things like Lego's own business strategy, collector concerns, fan nostalgia, and even some creative factors. But one thing I did find out when I was researching this video is it isn't something that's completely unheard of. There are a few examples from the past of when they have brought back sets pretty much exactly as they were when they were originally released. A big notable example is the Taj Mahal, which was originally released back in 2009 and then effectively re-released exactly as it was in 2017. So they have done it. Very rarely they have done it. So while I'm gathering together my notes for the rest of the video, why don't you let me know down in the comment section what your top choices for potential re-released sets would be? What are you desperate to get hold of? And of course, if you are new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on, and leave a big thumbs up to let me know you enjoy this kind of video. Let's jump in. And we are going to start things off with some of the reasons why it would be cool and I wish they did it, because I do wish they did it. Having now looked at all this, I kind of understand why they don't, but goodness me, it doesn't stop me wishing that they did. And one big example is that we know from not just Lego, but from pretty much anything that involves millennials spending money, nostalgia drives sales. Fans of a certain age, my age, have some rather strong emotional attachments to some of those older sets. You only have to look at how popular the likes of the Lion Knight's Castle, the Eldorado Fortress, Pirates of Barracuda Bay, these sets sold an absolute ton because they tapped in on that childhood nostalgia and reminded us of the sets that we had when we were kids. It's certainly the reason why they're some of the favourite sets in my collection. And you don't just have to take my word for it, just one look at the secondary market and we see just how in demand some of these older sets are. In fact, it's regularly cited all over the internet that with retired Lego sets typically increasing in value by an average of about 11% per year, investing in Lego over the last 20 years has outperformed investing in gold or the stock market. So there's definitely plenty of people willing to spend good money on these older sets, which in turn would make you think, well, if they're willing to spend way over the odds on a set from 20 or 30 years ago just because of that nostalgia, imagine how excited they'd be if they could just walk into the Lego store and buy it directly from them again. And there are certainly certain themes within Lego that lend themselves to this kind of thing more than others. I get that it would be a difficult thing to do with some licensed themes because of licenses, and licenses are a nightmare, but I'm looking at you, the modular range. How cool would it be if, in addition to releasing a new modular every January, maybe every summer they re-released one of the old ones? Imagine if we got an announcement now saying, oh yeah, by the way, 1st of August, we're re-releasing Cafe Corner. It's going to be £200. I mean, I think there'd be some queues outside the Lego store that day. I'd certainly be pre-ordering and picking one up. And anyone who is collecting the modulars and is just never going to be able to spend the multiple 4 figures it costs to buy a brand new in-box one of those would be there as well. And I don't know if I speak for everybody, but I, for one, would be quite happy if it was like PlayStation Classics style and the box made it very, very clear it was the reissue, the reprint. I don't care. I just want that set. And it would be awesome, and it would just be a way for Lego to... It's like an infinite money glitch. They've got nearly 20 years of history in that modular series now, so they could literally do that every year, and by the time they get through all 20 of them, and we're 20 years down the line and they're reissuing Tudor Corner, they could loop back round again, because by then it's been 20 years since they've had Cafe Corner again. I think it works. And it does just seem like a complete no-brainer for Lego. It's easy profit. It's a set they've already designed. They've already done all of the production and like background work on. The instruction manuals are already designed. They literally just have to print the things and send them to the shops. It feels like something that would have a big fat profit margin on it. But actually, that kind of links back into one of the reasons why it doesn't happen, because it's not quite that simple. Because in actual fact, a lot of the older sets, using Cafe Corner again as an example, use older molds or older pieces that are no longer in production or molds that no longer exist. So reprinting the sets exactly as they were originally is either impossible because they don't have the molds, the pieces aren't in production, or really expensive because they do actually have to go out and redo the molds, change the production line stuff. So then they have the decision of, okay, well, we're not going to redo the molds, so maybe we'll swap out some of the pieces, and then it becomes more of a remake than a reissue. And I can just imagine the grumpiness that you'd get from the community of, well, Cafe Corner's back, but it's not quite the same. Unless, of course, they made it better and put an interior in it and massively modernised it with some of the build techniques we see on some of the more modern sets, in which case, again, I'm all for it again all of a sudden. But it is going to feel less authentic to collectors because it's not the original one. But that is basically what they did with stuff like the Eldorado Fortress, modernised it and remade it rather than reissuing it. So they've got precedent for doing that. I'm not sure they want to, because Lego as a company have a very strong innovation focus. It's even on the official lego.com guidance when they're explaining the whole retired sets thing. And their explanation is that they're inventing new Lego toys all the time. And because of that, they sometimes have to stop making older sets. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't have the capacity in the factories, they wouldn't have the rooms on the shelves. And ultimately, that limited release slot, because of just logistics, means that if they did start doing, let's say, 4 or 5 re-releases each year of big popular sets, that's arguably 4 or 5 big popular new sets that have to come off the production line because they can't fit them in. They don't have the capacity to make them, and they don't have the store space to sell them. So as much as I would like a reissue of some of the older modulars, would you trade a reissued Cafe Corner if it meant you didn't get that new Krusty Burger set that you're all really desperate for that's coming out this weekend? I'd make that trade, but I know a lot of you probably wouldn't. And I do certainly enjoy the fact that we do have constant new stuff coming, constant new innovation. And I wouldn't want that to stop just to go back and re-release some older stuff, which would suit me as somebody who had a long dark ages where I wasn't buying Lego. But if I'd been buying Lego consistently for the last 20 years, I'd be pretty miffed if the new stuff started to reduce so they could re-release stuff that I already own for more money than it cost to begin with. Because, of course, inflation has happened since these sets were originally released. And that's another area where it would likely cause the community to lose their mind if a set that originally released for £60 or £70 is getting re-released for £200. People are going to go bananas. Oh, Lego's so expensive, blah, 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 blah. So then Lego have got the situation of, okay, do we massively ramp up the price and have to listen to all that? Or do we reduce the piece count? In which case it's not the same set again. And people moan on that side of it as well. And never mind the fact that the collectors are also going to be losing their mind through all of this, because it would have the potential to cause a massive market crash. We're talking about this product that people are effectively investing in because of that long-term 11% average growth rate that you get on retired Lego products. If all of a sudden a set that they've got 5 of in their stockpile for they're valuing at £2,000 each gets re-released at 200 quid and it is exactly the same, that's just going to absolutely bomb their entire collection, which you could argue serves them right if they're stockpiling 5 of them. But it is a huge segment of the Lego consumer base that the company as a whole don't want to alienate, because, I mean, you just have to walk into the Lego store and see how much of the stuff is in the black boxes. That's the 18 plus, aimed at adults, aimed at collectors stuff. You don't want to upset those people, and they're the ones hoarding those older sets. And they ain't going to buy as many of them if they're not guaranteed that they're going to go up in value as time goes on. So it could have a detrimental knock-on effect on the sales of the newer product. Never mind the fact that constant re-releases would lead them open to being accused of just like stagnation of ideas for a company that's always prided itself on its innovation. It's also important from Lego's perspective to avoid saturation. And we do have a lot of product aimed at this end of the market already, because realistically, this re-release of older stuff is going to be aimed at the old folk. It's more of the black box 18 plus stuff. Kids don't care that a set was originally available 20 years ago. They weren't alive then. They don't remember. They just want the cool new set. So this is stuff that's going to be aimed at you and me. Just like that half of the store that's already in black boxes, just like the Bricklink designer program, which hits us 3 or 4 times in a year and is on the horizon. And that's doing us for like a grander time every time that comes out. There is more product more often for adult collectors of Lego than there ever has been in the past. And if you start shoveling even more on, we're going to reach breaking point. I know I'm feeling it at the moment, and I've seen from the comment section that a lot of you are feeling it as well. There is so much product at the higher end of the price range, aimed at collectors, aimed at adults. We just can't keep up with it all. I'm looking at that next Bricklink designer program release that pre-orders open for in 2 weeks time, less than 2 weeks, and there's several sets in there I'd really like, but there's already several that I'm just going to have to pass on. That Transylvania set looks awesome. I can't afford to spend £1,000 on another wave of Bricklink designer program though. 10 days after June the 1st has happened and it was the biggest release day of the year. I can't spend £3,000 on Lego in a month. Please don't re-release Cafe Corner in August. I take it all back. And like I said at the start of the video, there have been a couple of examples of them doing these re-releases. Taj Mahal is one. One of the big grey balls from Star Wars was apparently re-released with very little changes to it, and everyone kicked off. They wanted a new one, and they just re-released an older Death Star, and it was actually an unpopular decision re-releasing it. And we are seeing bits of like the nostalgia sets coming out. I've already mentioned Eldorado Fortress, Lion Knight's Castle, Pirates of Barracuda Bay. We had the Galaxy Explorer a few years ago. We had that Blacktron set that came out earlier this year. They're kind of averaging maybe one a year of these nostalgia sets that aren't reissues, but they are definitely remakes, inspired by versions of those nostalgia pulling sets. And I mean, the Blacktron set, I don't think has sold very well. And I think it's due to retire this year, even though it only released this year. And I don't hear a lot of people making a lot of fuss about it. So maybe even the nostalgia is not working as hard as it used to because we are getting closer and closer to that market saturation point. Bottom line, as cool as I think the idea of reissuing older sets would be, I don't think it's anything that's likely to happen anytime soon. Lego's official stance very much seems to be keep innovating, very occasionally revisit the older classics, but keep innovating, keep doing new. And we can't really complain too much when we're getting sets as cool as Tudor Corner being released. That is so far ahead of those older sets. If anything, it would be a disappointment to then have to go back and build something like Cafe Corner for the same price point, because it's not comparable. Tudor Corner is way, way ahead of it. And fans and collectors obviously are going to continue wanting their favourites back, but ultimately that's what that post-retirement market is there for. If there's a set you missed out on that you really want, there are still ways to get it. Yeah, they're more expensive, but they exist. And if you don't want to spend the price, don't worry. There's lots of cool new stuff coming out all the time too. But I think I've gone on about this long enough. I want to hear from you now. Let me know down in the comments. Should Lego periodically re-release older retired sets, or would you prefer they just continue to focus on new innovative stuff like they do now? And if you do want them to re-release sets, which ones would you like them to start with? Fill the comment section up with all of that, or join us over on the Discord. The link to that is down in the description below as well. And if you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for loads more Lego content. And thank you very much for watching.